Is your capital raising stuck? Have you tried raising capital for multifamily deals beyond just your friends and family and found that you're not getting enough committed investors? Maybe you've tried posting on social media, going to events, even going on podcasts, but you're wondering why you still can't get enough committed investors. Or maybe you got through your first deal, but you know that the way you've been doing things isn't scalable. Usually capital raisers think, I just need a way to get in front of more potential investors. But is that the real problem? In the past decade, I've helped hundreds of multifamily investors, and I've found that's usually not the real problem. In this video, I'm going to boil it down to the actual thing that's missing. More importantly, I'll show you what you can do about it today. What I'm going to cover in the next few minutes is the most important thing you need to understand and have in place to raise capital and grow profitably in the long run. The great thing is that by putting in a little bit of time up front, it can pay off exponentially over time. That's a big promise, but it's absolutely true. My name is Todd Heitner, and I'm the founder and CEO of Apartment Investor Pro. Over the past 20 years, we've served thousands of real estate investors. And over the past decade, we've focused on helping multifamily investors specifically. My team and I have helped hundreds of syndicators to raise more capital. I'm here to tell you, you're not as far off from being successful in syndication as you might think. So what's the real problem if it's not just getting in front of more investors? Well, when my wife and I were looking for our first syndication to invest in passively, there were several deals that we would have invested in. We did the research, the deals sounded good, and I was comfortable enough with the GP to invest with them. But one after another, they dropped the ball. We were ready to wire funds, but they never followed up to see if we wanted to move forward and tell us how to wire the funds. We fell through the cracks, so we decided to consider other deals since these were all dead ends. Meanwhile, these capital raisers were probably wondering why they couldn't raise the capital they needed. You wouldn't believe how often this happens. Is it possible you're doing this to your investors? And what is the real problem here? While it is important to regularly get in front of new investors, if you don't have a plan for what happens after someone hears about you, how to turn that awareness into trust and then trust into capital, then you're wasting lots of effort. Otherwise, it's like trying to fill a bucket that has huge holes in it. Potential investment capital is pouring out all over the place. This is where I've seen lots of syndicators fail. They're leaving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on the table over and over again. It's not about talking to more investors. It's about making more out of each relationship and not wasting opportunities. If you don't have a solid system in place, I'll admit, once in a while you get lucky and you might get an investor, but it's going to be very hit and miss. It's going to be frustrating and it's going to feel more like gambling than running a business. I don't want that to happen to you. So let me show you what you can do about it. Here's the game changer for you. What's going to make the difference between struggling and failing or being successful? The key is to integrate an automatic lead conversion system. And by that, I mean you essentially have an engine you can put new contacts into that don't know who you are yet or why they should invest with you and come out the other side as a committed investor in your deal. You have systems and processes in place as well as automations that make sure that every new person you meet will get the information or the follow-up they need at the right time to move them along in the process. To build a system or a machine that does that, you first need to map it all out, to have a blueprint. Let me show you what that might look like. There are 6 stages that a person has to go through before they will be ready to wire funds. Now, if you've never heard anyone talk about this before, you might be thinking, 6 stages, says who? And that's a fair question. These stages aren't just theory. They're not only based on 20 years of working with real estate investors, but they're also true for any business to turn leads into clients. And it actually mirrors how trust is built in any relationship, personal or professional. Imagine that you're walking out of the coffee shop and someone opens the door for you and you say, thank you. And they respond with, hey, would you like to get married? I'm trying to get married this year and this is a great opportunity. Would you stick around and say, oh, tell me more? Or would you get in your car as quickly as possible and get out of there? But this is exactly what happens all the time as people are trying to raise capital. There's a natural progression that has to happen before you ask for such a large commitment. It's true in personal relationships and it's true in capital raising. And if you skip steps, that's when things fall apart. So what are the 6 stages? You can see them here. The first step is awareness, which is where you're getting on the potential investor's radar. Step 6 is where they invest in one of your deals. So how do we get them from step 1 to step 6? That's the multi-million-dollar question. Let's quickly walk through the steps. First, we have aware. For our relationship analogy, this is like making eye contact at a party. The other person now knows you exist and are available. You probably know of several ways to meet new potential investors. Posting on social media, running ads, going to events, going on a podcast. All you're trying to do at this stage is make sure people understand that you can help with the thing that they're struggling with. Second, we have engage. In our dating and marriage comparison, if you just met someone and were curious about them, what could you do? Well, you might look them up on social media to see what kind of stuff they're posting. What are they into? Is it possible they're crazy? Are they already in a relationship? If you see red flags, you'll be relieved that you dodged a bullet and just won't get in touch with them to try to start the relationship. After you meet a potential investor, they're doing the same thing. They're going to Google you or your business name the first chance they get to try to see if you're legit. They're looking for a website. And if you don't have a website, or if it's obviously a do-it-yourself job, that means you're not a real business. So chances are you're not going to hear from them again. They're going to be glad that they dodged a bullet with you and toss your business card in the trash. So your website should obviously look professional, and whatever action you want the person to take should draw their eye and be visible without them having to scroll down. It should be right at the top. So what actions should you have them take? Well, that leads us to the next stage. Number 3, capture. This is where we're asking for the attractive person's phone number. You need a way to follow up and start building the relationship. With investors, you're collecting their contact information. Now, this is a small commitment, but an important step forward. Generally, you need to give them some sort of incentive to do this. This is usually called a lead magnet. It's something that attracts leads. So in the previous stage, we said that the action you want people to take on your website should be visible without them scrolling. So this is where you would put a sign-up form for your lead magnet. Now, when someone puts in their name and email, they get added to your CRM. That's a customer relationship management system. And not only are you adding them as a contact, but this will trigger an automation, which we'll get into in a moment. So what piece of valuable content do you offer in exchange for the potential investor's contact information and permission to follow up with them? If your answer is, I have an ebook, bad idea. This is such a common mistake. Imagine that you just met someone, you've been on 0 dates, you've exchanged like 1 text message, and now they text you saying, hey, would you like to go on a 2-week vacation with me to a cabin in the mountains? That's way too much of a commitment and too much too quickly. This is the equivalent of someone landing on your website for the first time and you hit them with, hey, you should read my book. That's way too big of an ask. You want to offer them something that they can go through in about 5 minutes. It should provide really high value in a short amount of time. So no ebooks. These first few stages can go pretty quickly. For example, if you're meeting someone in person, you might see them, have a conversation, and exchange contact information. So you've covered stages 1 through 3. And that might have happened without much thought. But when you don't have the rest mapped out, that's often the beginning and end of the relationship. Stage 4 is convert. Here we're asking the other person to make a small commitment to the relationship. It's like asking someone to go on a date. With your potential investor, this is the time to ask for details like whether they're accredited, how much they have to invest, or get them to invest some of their time with you on a call. This shows that they have some level of interest in moving forward. The goal isn't to try to get a commitment to invest yet. It's just to get them to take one small, natural step forward toward deeper trust. The process that people go through isn't always linear. Some people may move through all the stages quickly, but others might linger longer in one stage before moving forward. Sometimes they'll go back and forth. So you need to have ways of engaging with them at whatever point they're at in the process. One way to do that is by having automation set up that if the potential investor doesn't immediately take the next step, they'll get a series of emails over a period of time that keeps building the relationship so they feel more comfortable taking that next step with you. Now, to be clear, we're not pestering them like, hey, do you want to invest? Hey, do you want to invest? That would be like texting someone, do you want to go on a date? Do you want to go on a date? Over and over again. That's not what we want. Instead, we're just providing value to the potential investor, educating them and motivating them. The point isn't to push people through as fast as possible. It's to have the right system in place so that no matter where someone is in the journey, you're guiding them at their pace and helping them to feel confident every step of the way. Are you clear on the next step you want them to take? Do you want them to fill out a questionnaire? Get on a call with you? Expecting them to figure it out when you don't even know is not going to work. Define that step clearly. Make it simple, easy, and obvious. And include a link to whatever that action is in the signature of each email you send out, including your newsletter. Now, unlike dating, with investors, you're trying to do this with many people at once because you generally need more than one investor in a deal. It's not scalable to try to have every interaction done manually. Imagine trying to date 10 or 20 people at the same time. How much time and energy would that take? Automations will make sure it gets done consistently and no one gets forgotten. Now, assuming things go well at this stage and you both feel like it makes sense to continue the relationship, you can move on to the next stage. Number 5, excite. This is kind of like proposing. You're presenting a deal and proposing that the person invests. This is a big step. You're building excitement for them to take this important step forward with you. You're painting the picture of what their life will be like if they make this commitment, why it's a solid investment, all the different ways that you've thought it through, what you can expect them to get out of it. You might do that through a one-on-one call or a meeting, or you might do it on a webinar. Now, this is where it's especially critical to keep track of each potential investor who has expressed interest and know where they're at in the process. Your CRM system should have a pipeline feature that you can put investors into so you can visually see what stage they're at and what needs to happen to move them forward. At this point, make sure to ask them if they would like to invest. If they need to think about it, follow up until you get a clear yes or no. And if they say yes, make sure they're 100% sure on what that actual next step is. Finally, number 6, this is like the actual wedding day where you exchange vows and make a commitment. You're guiding them through the process of wiring funds. So here they wire the funds and they're committed to this deal. So this is a critical place, again, to use a pipeline feature to keep track of where each investor is in this process. Did they say they were going to invest, but they haven't wired the funds yet? Did they have a question? Are they having trouble with the wire transfer? Being able to see at a glance where each investor is and what needs to happen next will allow you to keep moving them forward toward that important step of wiring the funds and being committed to this deal. Now, you might be thinking, well, I've gotten some committed investors before and I didn't do this. And maybe you didn't, at least not intentionally. But here's the thing. Even if you weren't following this process consciously, your investor still went through it. Because is it possible that someone will invest with you if they don't know who you are? Will you get funds from a person that doesn't trust you with their money? If they're interested but never see an available deal, will they invest? Or what if, like me, they have cash in hand, they're ready to invest, but you never tell them how to get the money from them to you? Every investor goes from not knowing who you are to trusting you to seeing the opportunity as the right fit. If you've gotten investors in your deals, one of two things is happening. And you tell me, option 1, did this happen by chance, not by design? Meaning they went through all these stages, but you didn't realize that that's what was happening and you just kind of got lucky. It happened to be perfect timing. Now, if that's the case, you're going to get inconsistent results, and that's not something you can build a business on. Or option 2, you've been taking people through these stages, but the way you're doing it isn't scalable because it's all manual. Either way, we're going to solve that problem. As I said earlier, most people want to focus on stage 1, getting in front of more people, but give very little thought to stages 2 through 6. Courting someone takes a lot of time and effort. It's not a numbers game. Like, if I just keep meeting enough people, one day I'll end up married. Not necessarily. If you're scaring them off, or if you're not willing to put time into pursuing a relationship, it's not going to happen. So until you have stages 2 through 6 mapped out with a solid process in place, it doesn't make sense to spend much time or money on stage 1. Otherwise, you're just putting new contacts into a black hole. As you can see here, we've mapped out this whole process for capital raising. I call this the Syndication Success Blueprint. In a couple minutes, I'll show you how you can download this complete blueprint, fully mapped out for you to use in your business at no cost. Creating this six-stage blueprint is an important first step. But then, how do you turn that into something real, into an actual engine that converts new contacts into investors? To build this engine, there are three core gears to implement. First, an effective website that looks professional, builds trust, educates, and gives potential investors a clear path forward. Number two, you need automations that keep in touch with people and keep them moving forward. And number three, you need a CRM system that helps you keep track of your best leads so you know who you need to follow up with and what they need to do next. But here's the thing, you might have tried to do some of these things before and it didn't move the needle for you. Where most syndicators fail is they don't first map out their blueprint and have a plan for each stage of the process. So they're losing potential investors along the way. Or they don't integrate all three core gears. You need to follow a tested blueprint to build a cohesive engine that ties everything together and runs smoothly. I call this the syndication success engine. Syndication is like a shiny new sports car. It looks great, but without a powerful engine, it's going nowhere. So how do you get your engine in place? Well, let's boil it down. Basically, you have three possibilities. Option one, you can try to do this all on your own. One person told me this is the route he took. And in his words, it was the bane of his existence. It takes a lot more time, energy, and money than most people realize. Realistically, you're looking at hundreds of hours and waiting a year or two to have something, halfway usable. And that's only if you have a good marketing coach. Option two, you could pay some marketing agency around $20,000 to try to build it for you. In most cases, it's going to be a lot of expensive trial and error as they're trying to figure out what syndication is and how it works. Or option three is the most efficient way to have your system in place. This is where we come in. Remember how we talked about having an engine that converts new contacts into investors, the syndication success engine? We've built that engine for you, putting the right parts in the right places and making sure everything works together smoothly. It includes the three core gears, a professional website, automated follow-up messages, and a lead management system, plus a lot more. All in one platform and based on the syndication success blueprint that we discussed. So this is like getting a 1 to 2 year head start. Let me walk you through what this might look like for you. So you meet a potential investor at an event and you give him your business card. Let's just call him John. Now when John gets home, he goes to your website. Here's an example of what your website could look like, but there are quite a few other designs to pick from too. John wants to learn more about investing in multifamily, so he signs up for your lead magnet. That's like a free report. He puts in his name and email. As we discussed earlier, you're not drowning him with a boring ebook at this stage. We're giving him just what he wants to know with a very small time commitment. At the same time, it's compelling, so he's interested in learning more. There's a call to action at the end to get started, which means filling out your investor questionnaire. But John doesn't have time right now, so he closes the page. Is he gone forever? No, your CRM system has captured his information and will start sending him a series of emails over a period of days that not only educates him about the benefits of investing in multifamily, but each email will also push him toward the next step of filling out that form with more details. Now John's busy, so he puts it off. But after the seventh email, he's feeling more comfortable with you and more motivated, so he clicks the link and fills out the form. You get an email letting you know all of John's details. But more importantly, since John just made a commitment to the relationship, he got added to your pipeline, so you can visually keep track of where he's at in the process. Also, after John filled out that more detailed form, he saw an option to book a call with you. Now he was on his phone, it didn't have his planner, so he didn't book a call. Once again, the automated emails kick in to keep providing value to John, educating him and motivating him to book a call. After a few of those emails, John books a call. That automatically schedules a Zoom meeting. Now you're excited to talk with John and learn more about his investment goals. So you show up on Zoom at the correct time, but John isn't there. Bummer. Now you double check and he was sent automated emails reminding him about the time of the call, so something must have come up. You get an email from your CRM asking you how the call went. You tap on they didn't show. That triggers a new automation that sends John an email and text inviting him to reschedule the call. Turns out John had a family emergency and completely forgot about the call. But he got your text and schedules a new call. The time for the new appointment comes and you open Zoom and there's John right on time. You have a great conversation and decide he's a great fit. After the call, you get an automated email asking you how the call went, and you tap on the option that John's qualified and you want to show him deals. That puts John on a separate list of investors that you've qualified and want to show deals to. When a deal comes along, you send it out to that list and John responds. So you add him to the pipeline for this deal. I think you get the picture. Now, we're just looking at the journey that one investor goes through here, but this same process can be happening with many potential investors at once. At any given moment, they're all at different stages in the process, but they're all in the system, moving toward becoming investors. You can feel confident knowing that you're not missing anything important. Everything isn't resting on your shoulders to have to remember. Over the past decade, we've been constantly improving and refining this system. One of our clients named Travis said, "This entire experience has afforded me the opportunity to focus my time on finding new deals versus trying to figure out how to build this myself or pay an outrageous price for lesser products." You can have your own syndication success engine that does what I just described up and running within 3 days. This platform will replace lots of other tools you might be using, which can save you a lot of money and hassle. We were able to cancel $659 per month. Did I say that right? Yes, $659 every month in other services when we moved everything over to this new platform. And here's the kicker. It's more affordable than you might think. I told you I would tell you how to get a copy of our Syndication Success Blueprint. As a way of thanking you for watching this training, you can get a free copy by scanning the QR code you see on the screen or by going to apartmentinvestorpro.com/blueprint. It'll show you the specific actions you can take for each stage of the journey, plus a 7th stage that we didn't have time to get into here. And it includes a 5-minute video to help you understand it. And when you sign up for our service, the Syndication Success Engine, you'll also get a 34-minute training video that shows you how to really get the most from this blueprint in practical terms. I know that you didn't get into syndication to spend your days juggling spreadsheets, forgetting who to follow up with, or feeling like you're constantly behind. You got into this for freedom, more time with your family, financial stability, and the ability to design a life that works for you. So if you're serious about raising more capital and creating a system that supports the lifestyle you actually want, now is the time. Let's get your engine running. Click below.